The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Hey everybody, this week's episode of PSVG Prime is brought to you by our amazing Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/PSVG, but especially Paul Calico, Barry Cathcart, The Bonesaw, Josh Barboni, Kyle Heyman, Chris M., Devin Tyus, Edwin Callow, and Coach Hulk. Thank you all for your support and your love and your dollars. We appreciate it. And reminder, everybody, during this show, actually, we're going to be giving away PSVG's prize. We're giving away one of those very sleek, very sexy black PSVG polo shirts. We will announce the winner later this episode. I'm not giving away up front. You're going to have to listen to me and Lucas babble on for an hour or so, and you're going to like it. If you want that shirt, or I mean, I guess you could skip to the end. You know, please don't skip to the end. Listen to the show. Give it a try. I mean, if you're paying, you should probably listen to the show. I'm just saying here. But hey, if you're not part of the PSVG Patreon, quick reminder: why aren't you? Like seriously, you get PSVG DLC, which is just ridiculous. You think you've heard Donnie's stories? You ain't heard Donnie's stories. We have monthly giveaways sponsored by a different show every single month where you can get free games, eShop currency. I mean, who knows? Doesn't compare. The polo shirt is a new thing. So you get all that for as little as $1 a month. So there's definitely a lot of cool tiers. Check it over there. Once again, patreon.com/PSVG. And now onto this week's episode. Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of PSVG Prime. We are the flagship show of the PSVG Podcast Network. We've gathered all of the Infinity Stones and we are officially in the Endgame now. It is I, your host Kevin, and with me, as always, except for last week, my buddy Lucas. How you doing?
Hey, I'm back.
You are. And also back with us for his 5th appearance in a row is Josh. Oh, I didn't ask Josh if he wanted to come tonight. I just kind of assumed he was sick of us.
Well, I mean, you mentioned on the last show that he would just be on here by himself if things continued. So you kind of had to cut him out before he took over.
It's true. And I had a lot of Josh yesterday in not a dirty, weird sense, but
thank you for clarifying.
Oh yeah. I mean, I kind of have to, I guess. For those who weren't following the Discord like that, Josh celebrated international, I think it's Tabletop Game Day, although they randomly moved it to a different date, even though it's been the same weekend every weekend.
You can't do that. You can't just move. What if they moved Christmas?
That'd be weird.
That'd be confusing.
I do like Christmas in July. We hear that all the time, but like imagine if it really was. I can't get in the spirit.
No, there are things that tell you that it's time for this holiday. And when you move Tabletop Board Game Day, those things go right out the window, dice falling from the sky. Not if you move the board game day. It's true. So
Josh is doing the American thing, and he's just going to celebrate it twice this year. Once on what would have been the day, and then again on June 1st, I think. So I drove up there to hand deliver Josh's black PSVG polo shirt too, which I said laughingly to Josh. I said, "Hey Josh, so Lucas has 3. I had yours and mine, Josh, and we live like an hour away from each other. I'm pretty sure Lucas, Jason, and Justin live within like 15 minutes of each other, and they haven't gotten their shirts yet. So, but he's appreciative, and we played some board games. But it was ironic. So that whole drive there and the drive back, I was catching up on my podcast. So I listened to like both episodes of Board with Video Games. So I just heard Josh for like 8-9 hours yesterday. It's a lot of Josh.
That's a lot of Josh. I don't know what my limit of Josh is. I haven't reached that point yet, but I'm up for trying. Josh, if you're listening, let's reach that limit together.
Challenge accepted. I don't know. That's a weird thing. How much Josh could I talk? But anyway, so we played Wingspan, which I'm sure he's going to talk on this week's Board with Video Games. Really cool games. I mean, they've talked a lot about it on Board with Video Games. That's the one. I don't know if you've heard it, Lucas, where like Kyle still has a sealed copy. And a copy of this game recently sold on eBay for $1,000.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Really great game. The artwork is beautiful. It's a fun game. You'll learn fun facts about birds. What could be wrong with that?
But that's actually useful knowledge.
It is, and we make fun of a lot of the birds' names because there's things like nuthatch, woodcock. There's different things like that. Multiple different color breasts.
Yes, gotta have the breast.
You give all that ammo to Josh, and it's just bound to be a good time. So, we had a lot of fun with that.
Cool. That sounds very cool. Yes, I have heard them talk about that, but see, I'm not really much of a physical person. I get all my board games digitally, so I guess I learned my lesson. They're not worth anything.
The most recent episode, they talk about a solution to that. So,
yes, that's true.
So who knows? We may get there. They tested it out. So
interesting. I have yet to listen. I gotta listen to that episode.
I've only listened to the beginning of it by the time I got home. So, plus I was really just sick of hearing Josh's voice. So,
but I understand.
This isn't board with video games. That's a different show. They talk about board games there. So listen to that. I'm sure Josh will talk about the events that happened last night. But let's talk about some video games, Josh. Wow, I pulled a Nathan on you.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's true. So. That's true. You got me back, sir. That's just play it off. Act like you tried to do it on purpose.
No, it definitely wasn't on purpose. I'm just so used to saying Josh apparently in every podcast for the last 17 weeks we've had him on show. So.
I was gonna say you just talked about him for 20 minutes, so I don't blame you, I suppose. No. You have Josh on the brain.
I do. He's hard to get off the brain.
That's insane in the membrane.
It's true.
All right,
Nathan, we're going down a bad path now. Let's talk about what we've been playing. I'll go first because you're taking a big gulp of something there, so I don't want to cut you off.
Big gulp of a big gulp.
Big gulp of a big gulp. Not a whole heck of a lot. I've been super, super busy with work, unfortunately. But Fortnite done sucked me in again. I had stopped playing for actually a while. I probably hadn't played in like 2 weeks, and then they're like, "Hey, we're going to do this Avengers Endgame crossover event," and that's going to get everyone who stopped playing Fortnite to play Fortnite again. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool. So I'll explain it for anybody who hasn't tried it yet. It is still going on as of you listening to the show, unless you're really late and like 2 weeks behind your podcast. It's a 20 versus 20, I believe. And as you go in randomly, you don't know what team you're going to be on, but as the game loads, you're either on the hero team or you're on Thanos and the Chitauri team, who were the villains from like the original Avengers movie, those aliens that had the giant worms and stuff. And depending on which side you're on, you have different objectives. So if you're the Chitauri, your goal is to collect all the Infinity Stones as they drop into the map. And that happens like every 2 minutes or so, one drops in on the map and you can see the location, kind of everybody just rushes for it. Once you gather all the Infinity Stones, you're stronger than your opponents. Like you can take more bullets. You're more like a bullet spongy. And every time somebody grabs a stone, one player from the team becomes Thanos. And you're like super powered. Like you can just jump and like smash the ground and kill like 4 people at once. You can shoot laser beams. You can teleport. It's like all sorts of crazy stuff.
Can you snap?
No. That'd be too much, I think. He's already OP as it is. So like everyone has to try and take him down.
It would have to take half of the people on your own team too. That's how it would even out.
Ooh, that's true. Yeah, so that'd be a bad move actually.
Yeah.
Up until all the stones are captured, there is unlimited spawning for the heroes. So the 20 heroes can die over and over and over again and kind of respawn and drop back in. The Chitauri team has 100 lives, so they can respawn as many times until they're out of lives. Okay. So the hero's objective then is kind of a no-brainer, is to kill them as quick as possible before they can get all the stones. And then as the stones drop in the map, your heroes can obviously guard them, build like, with Fortnite, they build those crazy buildings to try and protect them and fight them off. But the coolest part of this is the weapons. So typically in Fortnite, you drop in, you find the chests, you get like the shield potions, you get shotguns, rifles, all the different guns. Those are all out the window for this event. So you drop in and you have a map, and the map will take you to a buried treasure, and you dig it up, and it's an Avengers themed weapon. And you can get multiple, but you have Captain America's shield. If you have that, you can block laser beams from your enemies. And of course, you can throw the shield and it like goes flying, bounces around, comes back to you. And you're quicker and you can jump higher than your typical character could. You can get Hawkeye's bow, which is one of my favorite ones, actually. You can kind of shoot unlimited. So in the bow and arrow in that game normally kind of has like an arc to it. Like as you go farther away, it starts to dip down. Hawkeye's doesn't, straight shot like as far as it can go. Yeah, so if you can aim it up pretty good, like you don't get a scope or anything, but if you can aim it up, you can nail somebody from far away with that thing. And of course, it's an exploding arrow too. It's pretty fast. It's probably equivalent to like the double barrel shotgun in the game. So like you shoot once, you got to reload. Yeah, so it's not super long, maybe 2-3 seconds in between. So you can't just rapid fire, but it's pretty cool.
That does sound cool.
And his other attack is it's actually a grappling arrow. So you can aim at things and kind of grapple yourself across the map. So you can use this to fling yourself across distance, get to like the top of the trees and snipe people from there. You get the Stormbreaker, Thor's axe, which you can use just to kind of chop things down. And like basically you can chop through anything with one hit. You can leap, kind of like jump and smash the ground and cause like an earthquake damage, or of course you can throw the axe and it comes back to you like Thor's hammer does. So it's pretty cool. And then you get Iron Man's Repulsor gauntlets. Ooh. So you got his hand jets, which you can use to kind of levitate, like jetpack yourself. So you shoot around, kind of like float, which is awesome.
That was my first question: is can you fly?
Yeah, you can. Not full on Iron Man fly, but you can do that hover thing he does. And then from the sky, you can kind of shoot down and blast everybody from the air. Now, his attacks are pretty weak, but they are rapid fire, and plus your whole floating makes you harder to hit. So yeah, it's a pretty fun event. I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 rounds of it so far. I don't think it's something I'm going to like continually obsessively keep playing, but it was kind of fun to see just something completely different from what Fortnite's done in these other events so far. So.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, is completely different. Nice that they can shake up the formula a little bit and include something that a lot of people are into, like Avengers. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, they did a similar thing near the Super Bowl. They had the Super Bowl event where everyone was dressed in the uniforms of the Patriots and the who the heck did they play in the Super Bowl? Now I can't remember. I don't know. They lost anyway. Whoever they played against. So really, the Patriots won. And you had your 50 versus 50 like that. So they do different things like that. But this one's totally different with exclusive weapons, which just I really wish there was just skins you could buy. I've only seen Black Widow so far, which is like, all right, but it's not what I want. I want more. Like,
yeah. I mean, who just wants Black Widow?
Yeah, not it really does come with the redheaded and blonde variety, though. So you buy one, you can switch the hair color. So,
palette swaps are always appreciated.
Yes, and you can buy the emote for Thanos' snap, which is kind of funny.
That's funny. That is funny.
Yeah,
I like that.
And then the other game I'm playing right now, which I decided to kind of try because I'm kind of in between things. Actually, I'll get to this in a second. I'll get to why I played this then. So as I promised Donnie, I was going to try and suffer through Life is Strange, season 2. So I played the first episode when that came out, and episode 2 apparently is where Captain Awesome, or whatever his name is, does make an appearance. So I was like, all right, let me try this again. Let's see if it gets any more interesting. And I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody who actually is interested in playing and wants to follow the story and doesn't want it lost. But something happens maybe half hour, 40 minutes into this episode that just made me so mad that I'm like, I'm just not playing this game. And I straight deleted it off my hard drive. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
Was it something that you thought was dumb, or was it something that you were just like, this story went in a completely different direction? Or
it seems that the storytelling they're doing is a throwaway story so far. Like the big appeal to these types of games in general is you get invested in the characters, you get invested in the story, what happened to them. There's consequences. Maybe it'll change, but in this game so far, the stuff I thought was going to be consequential was already thrown away. And I'm like, well, what's the significance of, like, it just, I don't think it has its own identity yet. And that's on like your episode into episode 2 of like 6 or 7 that they're doing. They already take way too long in between episodes. It's like, 4 months, 5 months in between episodes. Yeah. I can't see myself being invested this long in the story. Maybe I'm just waiting for the whole thing to come out and just play it then. But yeah, I don't know. It's making me mad. I miss Telltale, I guess, is what I could say. Like, it's just not that same, ironically enough, I'm saying it's the same quality, like visually, and it runs much better. I'll give it that. But the storytelling, it's not even close.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a bummer, because I just fairly recently, played Life is Strange, the first one, and I have Before the Storm queued up eventually on deck. And I was, after playing Captain Spirit, I was pretty excited to try, Life is Strange 2, but I think I would have to wait for them all to come out too. Yeah. I can't do that much time between, because I'd play like 2 episodes and then eventually something else would come out and I would forget that, those 3 episodes came out, whatever. So
yeah, and that's kind of what I did too. Is I just forgot about it. But yeah, I mean, and even Donnie. I mean, Donnie's still going to play it, but he even expressed to me that he's been let down a lot by where this has gone so far. So yeah,
interesting.
But so it got me thinking, like, all right, what am I going to play next? What am I vested in other than Borderlands, which I'm still kind of playing on and off? And it's Gears of War 4. So even though I've never been until recently kind of an Xbox guy, I did play Gears of War 1, 2, and 3. And I played them all co-op with my buddy who used to live like next door back in my old place. So we kind of played them co-op, and they were a lot of fun. I always had a great time with them. So I was like, well, everybody talks great about Gears of War 4. I'm just going to boot up and start playing it. I know I asked in the Discord, and Callow answered me too. I was like, at what point do I fight like aliens again? Because that's what I remember. Like just aliens. And this one starts off with all robots for like a while. Oh. And I'm just like, well, this isn't satisfying to me. I don't know. It doesn't, Gears feels like a heavy shooter. Like everybody's big, they move around thing, and you feel like weight to everything you do.
Yeah.
And in this one, I'm starting to now because I am fighting non-aliens at this point, but it took a long time to get there. It feels like a quicker version of Gears, which probably was needed. I don't think a game that was back then like Gears of War 1 and 2 would work today per se without some improvements and making it feel a little bit lighter, a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I like the story so far. It is pretty cool. The only thing I don't like, and I don't remember if they always had this, I think they did, the reloading. Did you play any Gears of games? Because I know some of them are on PC.
I played 1 and 2.
Okay, the reload button, did it have that reload and then you had to time it perfectly so your gun didn't jam? Okay, so that was there.
Well, no, I feel like it didn't jam if you timed it perfectly. I felt like you got extra damage for that clip or for the first 6 shots or something like that.
I don't know, but for me, it's like if you don't time it in that range, it takes longer for you to reload. Okay. Like if you're too early or too late, or you don't press it at all, it just takes longer to reload things, which isn't a problem, except for the enemies in this one are super bullet spongy, like badly. And if you had a gun with like a giant clip in it, not a problem. But when you get like 12 shots and it takes like 30 to kill an enemy, you're like, come on. Like, reload tab. But I'm enjoying it. I think you just have to get used to that mechanic because that's different. And I haven't played Gears in a long time. I didn't play Retribution. And I'm obviously way behind on this because this has been out for quite some time and I'm just getting to it now. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. I just kind of have to get used to it. And I think I'm going to have a problem going from like Borderlands to Gears to like Apex or Fortnite because they're all shooters, but they all play so differently. It's
they do.
So, but yeah, I'm having fun. I'm gonna keep playing through that though because it is enjoyable so far, and I want to see where the story goes. But enough for me. I want to talk about some of these games in your list because I've played almost everything on your list. So
exciting! They couldn't. 2 of them are fairly similar, but one couldn't be more different than the other 2. But I'll start with Firewatch. So this game I'd been looking forward to playing for quite some time. It was just one of those that, because I knew it was story-based, usually the story-based single-player games I have no problem with kind of languishing until they're much, much cheaper.
Yeah.
And so I kind of already knew sort of what it was about, the game. I won't go into too many specifics. I have completed the game now. So I played it over the course of the last 2 weeks, basically. And, it's basically about the relationship that you have with another Firewatch lookout over a walkie-talkie. Mm-hmm. And a story kind of unfolds as you experience each day, or basically a number of days. I think there's like 79 days or something, but you don't play each one individually. It just kind of shows you the progression of time. So I didn't know anything about the story though. I just knew basically that setup, that you walk around as a Firewatch. This is a, walking simulator game. There will be some sort of story that you'll experience, and that's that. Now, the common problem that most people have with walking simulator games is that there's nothing to do. You just kind of collect pieces of paper that give you story or audio recordings or whatever. And I read an article that basically said the walkie-talkie conversation really helps make this game because, one, you're having a conversation where it actually feels like what you're saying matters. You almost feel like you're talking to a real person as opposed to an NPC. The way that you respond to the things that this person says changes the relationship that you have with that person in very subtle ways. And, you can basically, at points, without spoiling things, you can basically decide where the conversation is, or where the relationship is headed, in a much more subtle way than most games, which are just like press B to romance, like Mass Effect. It kind of, it's like, hey, you guys are gonna go into this room and have a good time if you go with this option. Here it's a little bit more subtle. It feels a bit more realistic, a little bit more natural. And I often found myself pausing at certain points, like, man, do I want to be a jerk to her, or do I want to be funny, or am I lamenting? You learn early in the game why you're there, and do I lament about that? But you're also kind of, it's almost realistic in the sense that you're kind of worried about letting on too much of your own personal life, because you're like, how's this person going to use that against me? You meta, or at least I meta the game a little bit, is what I'm trying to say. Because I'm thinking, like, how is this going to be used against me later or whatever? Because I didn't know what to expect. Same thing with the camera. Actually, you get a camera in the game, and I'm like taking pictures because I'm like, I don't know if this is going to come up later or what. So if I'm going to be graded on the pictures I'm taking, I got to take some pretty awesome pictures. But there is a lot to do in this game for a walking simulator. You're not just doing what I said. There is some picking up notes, checking on things, and obviously walking places, but it always felt like it fit the narrative, and you're doing it for story reasons, or things that are happening make sense within the world. And it was always interesting. It wasn't just, I need to go to this point to see the next bit of story. It was, oh, something's happening and I need to go check it out. And I really appreciated that. I think that helped pull me through the game, because it isn't, I mean, you're still not running around shooting. It's no action packed game, but it was the perfect length. It didn't overstay its welcome. There's some drama. There's some stuff going on. There's intrigue. There's mystery. So I thought it was really good. The narrative was really good. And it kind of made me go, wow, I need to, do you remember what the studio was that made Firewatch?
Oh.
Mondo, Campo something. Yeah. But I was like, man, it turns out they're making another game. Campo Santo. I'd be interested in what else they do, because they took this genre and I think they breathed in some life where other studios, I mean, granted, it's kind of I don't remember if it's the same article or if it was a different one, but I was reading about how walking simulators tend to be a very cheap option for studios to make games of, because you don't have to worry too much about animation. You're typically alone. You can't see yourself. You're just basically telling a story. So
I think of the Gods is there one they're working on now.
Yep. And you have a friend in that one.
You do. Yep.
So that's pretty interesting too. Whereas, not on walkie talkie, actually right there with you. Right. So yeah, just kind of blew away my expectations. I was very surprised at how good it was, and of course it's beautiful. Who doesn't want to walk through nature when it's so saturated with color and, stylistically cartoonish, just looks great. So
did you play it on PC or Switch?
PC. Yep. Okay, I got it. This was a Humble Bundle special. So of course I was like, thank God I didn't end up buying it, because this one didn't go for very cheap. I think the lowest that ever went was like half off. So it was still $7.50 or $8 or something at its cheapest. So I was still waiting for $5 or so.
Right. And that's where I was for a long time too. And I forget how I got it. I don't know if I bought it on a sale on PlayStation or eventually hit a PS Plus time deal where I got it for, air quotes, for free. But I enjoyed it too. I just, the ending of the story, once again, I'm not going to give any spoilers because I want people to play it. It was a great game. The ending of the story left me a little, I was like, after all that's the endings. But other than that, the art was great. Like you said, it was engaging. It kept you hooked the whole time. You didn't realize a lot of it was just going back and forth, because that whole walkie-talkie conversation piece is really what carried the whole game, essentially. But
yeah. Otherwise, you're just walking around by yourself, and I would imagine be very quiet. But the way that you can kind of report in and talk about the things that you're experiencing with somebody else really helps kind of sell what's going on.
Definitely.
I will say, I remember before I bought this game, people were wondering why this wasn't ported to VR. And now that I've played the game, this would be awful in VR, because they would have to do so much backtracking and taking out animation, because when you climb over stuff, it takes control of the camera. And in VR, that is awful.
You can't have it. That's true. Yeah.
So I'm sure they could do it, but is it worth it to them? Probably not. I'd rather them make a new game than try and get this working on VR. So the other game that I'm playing is Mortal Kombat 11. My goodness gracious, I actually pre-ordered a game. Can you believe it?
I was shocked when you said you pre-ordered. I was like, really? Out of all the games, like I just didn't expect this one to be like, yes, I'm doing this one.
I talked a little bit about, I think I was talking to Josh about this, that
Probably.
I don't, yeah, because exactly. That's why it was him I was probably talking to. Nobody else I know really likes Mortal Kombat that much. And by that, I mean nobody else before PSVG or before really doing Flexippose. So it's one of those things from my childhood that I've always had a fondness for, even the movies. And, but everyone else was just like, you like Mortal Kombat? I don't even like fighting games, but seriously, everybody I know likes Street Fighter at least. So come on, get with it. Mortal Kombat's for the 90s. And, but that's what I like about it. It's kind of self-aware and it's never taken itself too seriously. And let's be honest, it, kind of dipped down in the 2000s and stuff, but ever since Mortal Kombat 9, it came back in a big way. And, Josh actually posted one of the trailers for it that used the original music from the movie and everything. And I'm just like, this is so well put together. Nostalgia overfloweth. I gotta pre-order it. So I did. And, I don't regret it. Not one bit, honestly.
Nice.
There are some issues. I am running the PC version, obviously. And I finally got HDR working. And so I heard this game looks really good in HDR, and I was messing around with it. And it turns out there's actually a glitch in the game that they have yet to fix. Two of them that are related to HDR. You can't pause in cutscenes, which is it's awesome to be able to do that, because some of these ones at the beginning of chapters are super long. Because what happens is the screen turns black and then it never comes back for some reason. The movie stops playing. And that only happens with HDR on. So most people, that's probably not going to be a problem for them. The other thing is that the chapter titles won't fade away. They just stay on screen.
Oh God.
So they cover like an eighth of the screen as you're trying to watch this movie basically. And it's like, how did this happen? What is going on? Cause I don't even know why HDR would cause that issue. So yeah, clearly it must've just been something they didn't catch before printing it. And apparently lately, or as of late, there are stories emerging that there was lots of crunching going on at NetherRealm Studios ever since Mortal Kombat 9. So I guess, it might not be that surprising that they let a few things slip. However, the PC version did not get the day one patch yet, because of course there's always a day one patch. Right. The consoles were all day one patched, but not the PC version. So I know they recently patched it with some other fixes, but none of that fixed any of my issues. But other than that, as far as actually doing the combat and everything goes, great. Feels awesome. Nice. The fatalities and everything. I'm glad that I really like the fatal blow system. I'm glad they got rid of the X-ray moves, because it feels a little bit more strategic to use it at the end of the match, or possibly waiting until round 2 to use them. They work similarly to X-ray moves, in which they're, over the top, graphically violent moves that do a lot of damage, but they are by no means a game changer one way or the other. It's not an overpowered thing that you can do that just sways the match completely and you're left to go, well, I guess I might as well concede victory because you did that. But all the characters play great. Their moves are reminiscent. I could do most of them without even having to look up the move lists. But,
nice.
They allow you to actually take the move lists and pin some of the moves on the screen, which is nice because you can practice combos. Yeah, you can practice combos, specials, fatalities, which are not ridiculously hard anymore. It's like, it tells you how far you have to be, and it's like back, forward, back, A, and you do a fatality. It's no longer up, down, left, right, A, B, start.
That's a Konami code. That wasn't a fatality.
But it's pretty close though. In Mortal Kombat 3, some of those were.
I could only do like Scorpions, which was block up. I remember that. That was the only one I could do where you ripped the mask off and breathed fire. Like that was it.
Any of the up ones, I'm like, why am I jumping now? I'm supposed to be doing a fatality, but instead I'm just jumping in the air. That's great. But yeah, and the story mode is great. It's very cheesy, but it's well done. Doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's just serious enough that it's legitimately good, at least as far as I'm concerned. And that's coming from a movie guy who's very snooty about things. But this one, this one gets me pumped. So
that's cool. That's cool because like I'm not. So yeah, Mortal Kombat dipped earlier, and I left Mortal Kombat then at that point. I did play Mortal Kombat 10 for a little bit, and I don't know what it is. I'm not good at it, which is weird because I'm really good at Injustice. And
that is weird.
Both NetherRealm, from my understanding, they play pretty similar. Like I don't think there's that much difference. But I played the demo for Mortal Kombat 11, and I suck at it. I don't know what it is. Like I don't know. It makes me sad because I want to play it. I want to enjoy the story. Like Josh says, the story is great. You're saying the story is fun. Like I want to experience it. It's like, but I don't think I'm good enough to even get through it. So it's like,
well, it can be very, and maybe you experience this with some of the characters on Injustice, but I have found certain ones, most of them overall I'm fine with, but like Kitana, I cannot get the handle of. She's very stilted. I can only do a couple things, and then I feel like I'm stopping, and I have to like get the combos going again or try to figure out what I'm going to do because the big thing is to be able to, keep some momentum going. Right. Yeah. But if you're constantly doing one punch and then standing there for a second and then doing a low kick, the computer's going to take advantage of you eventually. So yeah, I haven't delved too much into the other stuff though. The stuff that people are complaining is grindy and stuff, or the crypt or anything like that. So I can't really talk about that yet, but I will get to that after I get to the story mode. But I'm kind of waiting to see if they're going to say when they're going to fix that stuff.
I know they did a patch on console that addressed some of the things.
Okay.
To make it a little bit better. So hopefully you get something soon.
There was a patch released a couple days ago, but it had something to do with something else. I don't remember what it was, but they had mentioned something. It was changing the balances of like getting the loot and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So the grind, as it were. And then lastly, I finally picked this back up after starting it. Thimbleweed Park, and I'm glad I did because I'm actually into it. It just, I don't know, it kind of felt, it's one of those games where if you don't stay on it, then it's easy to fall to the wayside.
Yep.
I'm having the same problem with Octopath Traveler. I keep letting that fall to the wayside because it's just easy to do. But because I have a ticking time clock or ticking clock on this, I want to get it done. I kind of spent most of the last few days really sinking a lot of time into it, which I'm glad I did because I don't know if I do well trying to come to this game every week or so. You know what I mean? Like I would constantly forget about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty far. I don't want to spoil for anything for anybody, but I will say I have entered the factory.
Okay. Oh yeah. Right. So you're pretty far. Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing that just before I had stopped at opening the doors. But then I was like, well, I got a little extra time. So I started, so I know sort of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And adventure games just have this way, even if they're just sprite based, pixel art or whatever, they just have this way of always having worlds that seem more alive and like there's more to them than 3D ones. I don't know what it is, but the adventure games, even when they're 3D, I felt that way with Book of Unwritten Tales. They just have this charm to them that doesn't really happen in many other games. I guess like the walking simulators would be the closest, but even those, Firewatch didn't really make me feel like, oh man, I wonder what's behind that door I can't open, or you know what I mean, or like what's up with these characters. It's very beautiful, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot there when you compare it to something like Thimbleweed Park, where this whole town, which almost seems like a character itself, and then there's just like you're eating rancid hot dogs and you're talking to gypsy women who throw out curses, and there's a clown that is very very hostile and making fun of everybody. So yeah, it's just great. It's fun, it's charming. I was very surprised at where the story took a turn and where it did, because you're kind of set up to think that the whole thing is going to be kind of a murder investigation. But that changes a little bit. So yeah, I'm pretty close to finishing it, so I'll have it done by next week, obviously, and I'm enjoying it. So again, not much to be said because you don't want to ruin the story, but yeah, it's very great. It's a good modern adventure game. So.
Yeah, and that's what I think I like so much about it. And we're going to talk a lot about this next week. If you guys don't recall, we'll be speaking to David Fox, who was a programmer, designer, writer, and sound designer for Thimbleweed Park, and also worked on Maniac Mansion and a whole bunch of those retro games that kind of helped build the industry. But yeah, it's a modern take on a classic game. So like you look at like the evolution of Mario. So Super Mario Brothers is obviously very different than like Mario Odyssey. Like you can't compare them at all, but you can still compare Maniac Mansion to Thimbleweed Park. And it's like they took that same formula and just yanked it 30 years in the future and was like, hey, this is what it would do if we did it today. And it's just so good.
Yeah.
The writing, the voice acting in it too helps, because I mean you didn't have that back then either in those games, back then. And it's just true. You're right. The whole town is alive. It's its own character, and the characters in it are just so much fun. But yeah,
I'm just glad that it's the quality of life improvements, really.
Yeah,
being able to go somewhere from the map, like I didn't realize that at first, but then I was like, oh, I can just open the map and go go somewhere. That's really helping. Yep, basically helping cut down time, or the hint system, which is great. So yeah, a lot of things that make it accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
So.
It's a lot of fun. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So yeah, tune in next week. David Fox will be joining us to talk about all these things and more, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right. That it for your games?
Yes, that's everything.
All right. Well, let's jump into the news of the week.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite news outlet on the Citadel.
And I'll go first with some cross-platform news here. Start over here, Shovel Knight. So indie darling that we all have known and loved, and most of us have played the heck out of it, whether it's on the Switch or PC or anything for that matter. Well, YouTube channel Boundary Break has kind of done different documentary episodes with Yacht Club games, kind of showing things in development through Shovel Knight. But what this YouTuber found is that Shovel Knight games are actually 2D games built in a 3D engine.
That's crazy.
Which is really trippy. If you go on the article there, you could see kind of how it breaks down, and that's just nuts. Like, it's insane how it was like. So if you're not, obviously you're not watching online, but if you haven't seen the story, it's literally, have you seen Shovel Knight? It's 2D platformer, but each item is a different layer. So like Shovel Knight in the ground he runs on is one layer, and behind him is another layer of the background. But even the background's like 4 layers deep, and everything that moves and kind of just brings that world to life is a different layer. So it's like just visually impressive to see how it's kind of done. A game that looks so retro, but actually was built in like almost Minecraft-esque if you think about it, the way it's kind of layered through. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's just funny that this game that we've all been playing for at this point, it's gotta be 5 years, I think, since we've started playing Shovel Knight, like on PC, and people are still finding out new things about it. And their Yacht Club's not done. We still have King of Cards to come, so they're just not done with this thing. But it's a really cool design aspect that I don't think I've ever seen anybody do a 2D platformer in 3D. So I wonder if that's part of the appeal, and maybe that's why it feels so good playing it. Perhaps I don't know, because we all kind of played Shovel Knight and was like, well, we've seen plenty of these pixel art, NES retro type games, and they're not really that good most of the time, and this one was kind of really good. I don't know if maybe subliminally that has something to do with why it feels just right.
Yeah, well, they say it was how they didn't know what they were doing, really. So they made it in 3D to help with debugging and stuff, but you would have to think that it kind of helps it feel smoother, you know what I mean? Because otherwise if you make a pixel game, you're kind of stuck with the pixel grid that you choose to use or whatever. So I would think bringing it to 3D kind of helps do those things that you couldn't originally do on hardware like the NES or the Nintendo, kind of like cheat it sort of. But I could totally imagine making it easier to develop, because then it just seems like a smart way to do things, because then you have everything on a separate layer. That's always that's how you work in Photoshop, so you don't screw something up.
That's true. Yeah.
You can, change something out if you need to. So it does seem like even though they say that they didn't know what they were doing, it seems like a halfway decent to continue to make games.
Sure.
In that way. So Very interesting. I would never all that to get a flat looking image.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like the amount of like it's like 6 or 7 layers deep, and it's like that to make it look like an NES flat game. It's very weird. Very, very weird. But all right, so jumping on to other kind of multi-platform news, stealing some thunder from PSXP, we're gonna talk some Apex Legends.
Ooh.
So I could say personally, I kind of, so I bought the season pass, played it probably pretty aggressively for like a week, and then I haven't gone back at all. So like I kind of feel bad that I bought the pass. I know a lot of people were like, well, this is kind of the grinding to level up is really rough in this, and you don't get a lot of rewards for doing it. Like unlike Fortnite, which season pass you get, you can play a couple matches and unlock more prizes, if you will, that you essentially paid for anyway, but you know what I mean? And Apex Legends doesn't have that. It's a long time in between things, and all you get are like skins for stuff you already have. There's no new content because of the way the game built. So with that being said, there was an official message from executive producer Drew McCoy, who kind of outlined how the major Apex Legends updates are going to roll out in the future, including us hearing more about Season 2 at E3 at EA Play. Pre-E3, I guess, because they do it right before E3. EA Play, they'll announce more specifics about Season 2. He said there'll be a new Battle Pass, of course, a new Legend, more news to the meta, the story behind Apex and how it's going to be there. And they also tease that Season 2 is going to include more meaningful content in its Battle Pass. So I'm guessing it's going to be less things such as, the skins and stat trackers. That's the other thing they do big. So you pick your character and you can have 3 different stat trackers, like how many times I've used healing on my teammates, or how many headshots I've done, or how many victories I've had. They give you different things to track for no apparent reason. But they said changes are going to come to the map, possibly a new map, which is kind of needed because, PUBG, to kind of do the battle royale thing. So PUBG has like 4 maps, I think, at this point. Fortnite's map changes every season. So it looks radically different, even though it's the same map essentially, but things change. And this map has just been the same, which it's still a newer game. So I totally get that. But that's things, battle royale players expect.
Yeah, I was going to say it's coming out at a time when it's playing catch up to everybody else. It's a good solid foundation, but now they have to look like they're updating as much as the guys who've been around, the games that have been around for much longer than this one.
Exactly. And especially like, so you look at like Fortnite acted right away, and they have the respawn set up extremely similar to Apex Legends already has. So they even acknowledged that they were doing some great things and that they were doing things right, and they took that inspiration from them, or stole it from them, however you want to word it. So that Apex should be doing the same from its competitors too. I would feel like you need to learn some lessons from them and how to deliver that content, how to keep people hooked on it, because that's the whole appeal to these games. You got to remember, it's like, yes, they're free to play games, but the point is you want to get people to spend money on something. So those type of quality of life improvements, the skins and things like that, or new characters really in Apex Legends would be the main way to do that. So they got to kind of get on board with that. So they did say they're going to be way more transparent with their updates in the future. They want to do the right thing. They seem to want to be more dedicated. But on the flip side, with that being said, don't expect Titanfall 3 anytime soon, because it's basically all hands on deck to work on Apex Legends for the foreseeable future.
Oof.
Yeah, so that probably lets down some fans who are probably more excited for Titanfall 3 now that Apex Legends is out and they see it. Maybe you could see like, oh, it's going to be awesome. And then it's like, yeah, we need to focus on this for now. So I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. So, yeah.
That's unfortunate, because I feel like that game, Titanfall, I feel like everyone was surprised that a sequel came out, and it seems like it has some diehard fans. So to find out that it's been delayed, nowadays, it seems like that could be, the next bit of news is delayed indefinitely, so.
I mean, who knows, with EA's track record, it could be delayed until Respawn is shut down. I mean, you don't know. Like that's the thing with EA. You really don't know what they're going to do or what they claim they have to do. So you can't really bank on it until it's almost here.
It's kind of weird because they're sort of cannibalizing themselves, it seems like, with these two games. And they maybe that's part of it too. They just want some breathing room, because all of this stuff might just get samey if you just plop it all down right in front of players all at the same time.
That's true. And then, I mean, you got to look at things. So like we in the Discord chat today, some people were talking about updates to Anthem came out and that they've made quality of life improvements. But I mean, everybody I know has moved on from that game for the most part. And I think it's because of how it launched. So you also can't let things stay stagnant for too long. And I think that's why they're like, well, okay, they're seeing the dip in Apex Legends. They know the Twitch audience that's gone down. Fortnite's taken the crown back again by like double again, you know. And I think they need to address that. I was like, hey, well, we need to work on this right now and make players stay on this before being able to feel comfortable and probably split that team and say, okay, you guys work on Titanfall. This smaller team, now that we've figured out what we're doing with Apex, can we just work on Apex updates and keep that going? So I think they're playing it smart, hopefully, even though some fans might be disappointed by it. I
feel like they could have just made Anthem a single player game and then not had to worry about making it Destiny 2 or anything. So
yeah, I'm honestly, I'm with you there. I played a few times multiplayer. It was fun, but I didn't get anything better from playing multiplayer that I couldn't do single player. I feel like it would have been the same experience overall, except for some fun times with buddies. But meh. All right, I'm done talking for now. Why don't you hit us up with some of that sweet PC news?
Oh, okay. Well, first things first, I found this. This is kind of fun. I found a Donnie game. And this is kind of like a backhanded compliment, but it's
Dong sliders? No,
no. Oh, close. Well, actually not. Well, if you find dong sliders relaxing, then maybe. There's this game called Hymno, and it's free. Actually, it's on the Steam store, and it's a relaxing platformer in which you cannot die. And now, when I first saw this, I almost didn't even open it because I was like, okay, free, and it's platformer that you can't die. Okay, whatever. But then I watched the video and the music and everything and the graphics. It was kind of, it looks more polished than I expected it to, I guess. I'm not really sure what the gist of it is, but the music is really great. You're basically going around and doing wall jumps and stuff in an underground castle type environment or something, or maybe it's a castle in the sky. There's clouds at the bottom. I thought that was water. But there is some platforming. It's not like you're just kind of running and jumping or playing like a mobile game. And it was a personal project that a developer made for themselves, basically, to play while they did other games. And here it is. Okay, the creator of Medieval Shopkeeper Simulator. So not exactly, somebody you'd be like, oh, that person. But they made it for themselves, and then they decided, you know what, I'm just going to release this. And I guess a lot of people find it a very positive experience. You just do a bit of platforming, and it just kind of chills you out. Maybe a palate cleanser or something.
It does look really cool, and I'm not sure. So what's the inspiration for it being a Donnie game? The fact that you can't die?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was just a backhanded
No. I get it. Although I thought the same thing while watching it, but not reading the description about not being able to die, because to me it almost seems SteamWorld Dig-esque.
Oh yeah, I could see.
Like, you get further in the game and to get back to the shop, you kind of have to do the same similar type things as this character is doing throughout its game. It looks like, but yeah, that does look pretty cool. I like the fact he has a giant sword and doesn't use it at all.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if it'll ever update, like go anywhere, like have objectives or anything like that.
If enough people play it, they'll.
That's what I'm wondering. Is it considered early access or something like that? But so there you go. Yeah, Donnie, here's a game you can't die.
It has a very positive ranking on Steam right now.
I wouldn't. If it didn't, I wouldn't have brought it up, honestly. But I was like, man, if you can get a very positive rating on Steam on a game where you can't die, that's pretty surprising. Because now you don't. It's not Souls-like. It's not a roguelite.
No.
Nobody can flex their gaming skills on you. It's just a good old time.
So, breaking news. As of 3 hours ago, new Hymno update 1.1 and Hymno 2 prototype.
Whoa.
So, at the moment, this is a prototype of Hymno 2 with combat. It's not definitive, much less. And he has like some things. He's showing some clips. Let me send you this video real quick, or this post. At least it's on the Steam shop, straight from the developer. There you go. There's a link there. And if you scroll down, you can actually see some of him using the sword. Breaking rocks, picking herbs, and opening chests would be with the sword. You have 10 slots in your inventory with materials. You can craft limited items. If you want more complex items or weapons, you need some crafting tables or NPCs. So he's kind of playing around the idea with adding some enemies and making some combat here for a prototype sequel.
Wow. Oh yeah. You got some slimes, of course.
Yep. And at the bottom, he says, "I'm showing you this, but it doesn't mean I'm going to make a Hymno 2 with combat. I show it so you can see what the combat would be like." So he's definitely playing with the ideas.
That's really cool, though, that he's just like, "Hey, community, you guys like my stuff. This is what it would look like. I'm not changing the game. I'm not saying I'm going to sell it or anything. Just here you go." That's cool.
It's pretty awesome. So that's funny you said that. But yeah, that looks cool. I'm going to download this and I'm going to play it. I'm going to try it.
Nice. It's not, like I said, I like the music. Very relaxing. In other news, Gone Home is free to keep on Humble Bundle. Speaking of Humble Bundle, they give me 50 cents every time I say their name. Not really. I say that joke a lot. People might start believing it. So yeah, Gone Home. Speaking of walking simulators, that one, Gone Home was always weird. Did you play Gone Home?
I did, and I did not enjoy it as much.
Did you ever get the sense that this was going to be a scary game at some point? Because
yes, I thought that was the premise of it, and then I was like, oh no. Yeah, I mean, you figure out what the premise of it is really early on in the game, and I think that maybe that's why it let me down, because I was like, I saw this is coming from a mile away, and it wasn't anything interesting. But I also keep forgetting it's really old. Like, when did this game come out on PC? I mean, it was newer to consoles when it hit, but I think it was out on PC for like years. It's more than 5 years old, but it's still worth playing. So it was one of the earlier walking simulator type games. Like, so maybe that's why. And I just played things like, Edith Finch, like Firewatch, and then played this, and I'm like, oh, okay.
That's a good point. Yeah. I don't know how well it would hold up. And honestly, I've pretty much forgotten the entire thing. I could probably play it again and be like, oh wow, this is all new to me. But yeah, I would not recommend this over Firewatch. I would tell somebody, if they were going to play a walking simulator game, to go buy Firewatch and not get the free game Gone Home. So I don't know. Maybe if you see this, stay clear and then buy Firewatch. But it is free if anybody was ever curious. You don't have nothing to lose.
That's true. And maybe it's better on PC. I played it on PlayStation, I think.
Ooh. Well, as we know, everything's better on PC. So come on.
Yeah.
Get with the times.
That's
Speaking
true.
of which, last bit of PC news, World War Z sells, quote, way above expectations on PC thanks to Epic Score exclusivity.
Well, if you set the bar low, you never disappoint.
That's true. My bar's on the ground. The devs say this, not Ninja Dev, but the developers of the game. Okay. Yeah. Game sold more than 250,000 Epic Game Store copies, accounting for more than a quarter of total sales. So I don't know what their expectations were. Maybe it says in here, we've had 70,000 people playing at once across all platforms. I just saw a number and thought maybe that's what they were thinking. But I mean, we've talked a little bit about the Epic Store exclusivity, and I don't really blame anybody. They said they would stop snatching up deals if Steam would play nice. Yeah, but I can't blame anybody. Who doesn't want to make more money off their games?
No, I mean, that's the thing. And I find it refreshing that Epic, like, up front was like, we'll knock it off if you guys give developers a fair or more fair cut than what you're giving them. I was like, that's really shocking. They said we even might bring Fortnite to Steam. We might consider doing that. I'm like,
it really makes it was a good move on their part, because now if Steam doesn't reply, then
they're the bad guys.
Although, to be fair, Steam doesn't have to reply. I mean, realistically, they still have the better experience, the more fleshed out experience.
Definitely. But yeah, in the story you posted too, they sold well. Epic Game Store said it had a record weekend last weekend, according to a tweet from Epic Games. And also they note that Metro Exodus, which was also exclusive to them, sold 2.5 times better on the Epic Game Store than Metro Last Light did on Steam prior.
But then again, their game store only has like 5 games on it, so you can only choose from like 5 different games.
Well, yeah, but still, for somebody to go and say, I want to buy this game, when the sequel,
true.
Prequel, I guess in this case, sold, less than 2 times than what this one did already in a much shorter period of time. So
It is weird. I feel like more people were talking about Metro Exodus than I had ever heard anybody talk about any of the other Metro games.
Yeah.
The other Metro games were those like weird games that people play on PC and they're kind of janky or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some PC news for you.
Cool.
Do with it what you will.
Well, I'm going to go play him now. That's what I'm going to do with it. So the last bit of news I have here, kind of for cross-platform, though it's probably a little more Sony. Kojima is talking a little bit, which it's always interesting when he has something to say because you never know where it's going to go. But he kind of opened up just a little bit about the epic split that he had with Konami. Years ago now at this point, where Metal Gear Solid, they removed his name from it. Like,
Konami went crazy.
They did. They really did. So he opened up about, having working with them for 30 years, and he literally felt like he had to start from scratch when he was, when he split up with Konami. This is the equivalent to, as the article states, a celebrity breakup, essentially, in the gaming industry.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
But he said, he thought he lost everything, but he had people like Sony step up, which was still, I say, a brilliant move for Sony to jump in there and be like, we'll help you out, like, right away, like almost within 2 or 3 months after that. Wouldn't
you? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And Jeff Keighley and Norman Reedus, all these people obviously stepped up to work with him. So he was working with Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro on Silent Hills before that got scrapped. And it would just be those three kind of came up with the concept of Death Stranding before, even they started writing a script like that. Like, they came up with the concept before having the studio to work on it or any resources to even make it a reality. He said he was slowly understood he didn't lose anything in this breakup after a little bit about a depression afterwards. And, it's because of his hard work that he made all these connections, and, he just was happy to do it and get back to work and do something and get credit for it, essentially. And I find the funny part of this was when he pitched the game to Mads Mikkelsen, there was nothing on paper. He was just kind of like, hey, I have this idea. Would you be interested? And he said verbally to him, he said, okay, I'll be in it. And his agent said that this was the first time Mads Mikkelsen has said yes without any sort of concept or like, thing to go off of. So that's a big deal. Like, as weird as Death Stranding appears like it's going to be, it's got some major star power behind it in a realm where we typically don't see a lot of star power, if you will. Like our stars in the video game world are very different from Hollywood stars. Like, yeah. And they often don't, come together. And usually it's voice talent, right. You often see voice talent, but to have so many names in a game is pretty surprising. And they clearly have a lot of faith in Kojima. Yes. I mean, why wouldn't you? His games have always been very action movie-esque. Oh yeah, to a certain degree. So I could see why, but you would think they would have to have some familiarity. Has Mads Mikkelsen ever worked with him before? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he hasn't. That's what's really surprising, because at first I thought, okay, maybe he knows he's worked with him before, but it's probably because of Del Toro and Reedus. I'm sure one of them must have had a connection to him, and yeah, that could maybe said like, hey, this would be really cool, or because he has that connection with Reedus and Del Toro, made it easier for him to get Mikkelsen, I guess, attention. But it's true. Yeah. So I mean that came up, and then this was all at the Tribeca Film Festival. Actually, he was there and speaking about this whole experience in Death Stranding, where it's going to go, and he gave a little bit more details about the game. Basically, he says it's an open world action game. No surprise there, we kind of knew it. But he says it's all about connecting the world back together. So he said, being the world what it is, and social media and the internet, like the world is all connected at this point. So this is an experience of it not being connected at all. And, Norman Reedus' character's attempt to reconnect everything in there. They talked about there's going to be a lot of cutscenes, a lot of long cutscenes. And Norman Reedus, going to be 200 gigs large with all these cutscenes. So big. It's got to be so bad. But yeah, he's just saying it's going to be, it's almost going to be an MMO, he says, because it's going to have some sort of online world aspect to it. Ooh, okay. Which is like, that's kind of, I mean, we haven't seen him do anything like that yet, but he said, Norman Reedus is going to be acting a lot in it. these long cutscenes. Like it's going to be him really doing it. So it's not just him lending a voice to something that's happening. Like it was all motion captured, and we've seen plenty of Instagram photos from both Ritas and Kojima, like how that's working and how they're operating it.
I always like when you play the character for like 5 minutes and then they die immediately, and you're like, well, that guy I like is not in this game anymore. Cool.
Yeah. And he did also state that Ritas also signed on without any concept committed to paper either, but that's not a surprise because he was kind of already working with them on Silent Hill, so I think he was all in and wanted to do it. But yeah, he said the game is basically a metaphor for how broken the world is today, referencing Brexit and the state of things in the United States, and he's just kind of using all of that as inspiration for this post-apocalyptic type world. So just more interesting to see more details from him and just the support he's getting from unlikely sources, I think.
I want him to explain why Norman Reedus is carrying a baby on his back or whatever the heck that was.
I'm sure it's going to come up eventually, but yeah, who knows? I got to have the faith.
They did, so why not us?
That's true. Who the heck are we? We're no Norman Reedus. Why can't we back him up like that? Like, geez.
Yeah, that's true. Get Mads Mikkelsen on the show. What are you doing?
Yeah, you got Hannibal on board. Who are we? Why can't we be on board? All right. Hit us up with that Nintendo news that Donnie and Caro didn't talk about.
Oh, okay, good. I was hoping. Let's see. Let's start with this one. Mario Kart Android. Did you get invited to the? Well, are you on Android, and did you get invited?
I am on Android, and I have signed up. Yes, sir.
Okay. I still need to sign up if I still can do that. I have no clue, but okay. I was invited as well. Question is, are you signing up out of morbid curiosity, or do you actually foresee yourself using this in some, or playing this in some fashion?
Morbid curiosity. I play a lot of different mobile games, and I don't stick with them for very long most of the time. So I was definitely like, well, I'll give this a shot for sure. But I mean, I can't see myself playing Mario Kart there when I can play it on my Switch, and it's probably 1,000 times better. But yeah.
I want to type in, I'm using tilt controls while holding my phone. Accelerometers. Yeah, so if that's a thing, we'll check your spam boxes and whatnot for a Mario Kart Nintendo invitation. Wonder if anybody will ever try to like spam people or get some sort of information out of them by faking this or phishing scams or something.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. You can sign up until May 7th.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will sign up on May 8th and then find out that I can't because that's how I do things. So yeah, keep an eye out. It'll be interesting. There haven't been any pictures or anything of this?
No, there's been nothing.
Okay. So I don't even know what I'm really signing up for. So well, I guess we'll see. Nintendo mobile experiences haven't exactly lit the world on fire as far as I'm concerned. So
right. And it's interesting because, as you said at the top, it's Android only. But yet the game is confirmed to be on iOS as well. And typically when we see these things, it's iOS gets it first.
Yeah, that is true. I did think it was weird that they were specifying Android. I'm like, that doesn't happen very often.
I wonder if they just want to get in as many hands and there's more Androids than there are iPhones, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know.
That's true. Well, I'm a poor person, so I have an Android. I talked about it. I have Chinese knockoff phone. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm proud of it. Speaking of Nintendo not doing things very well, so apparently you can play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild with a PlayStation VR headset if you have all of the accoutrement to do so. Ooh. Obviously, you would need a PS4 or whatever, and a PSVR and a Switch. And this article goes into, there was a Reddit user that explained how this works, but basically from what I can understand, it doesn't say this. I've never seen the PSVR, so I don't know if there's like a box that comes with it. Or anything.
It's a box that attaches to the PlayStation that kind of gives it the extra horsepower to run it.
Okay, so apparently you can manipulate the inputs and outputs and everything. And this you're able to do this through PSVR cinema mode, apparently. So you can you can hook this all up, and it doesn't say that it's in. Okay, it is. I think it is in VR. I couldn't tell if it was just like the Xbox Oculus thing where you could just play your Xbox regularly.
Yeah.
But there is a video explaining how to do it. and everything. And it says that it does help a little bit because obviously you're not looking at the screen of the Switch. You know, it's still running at the same resolution, the docked resolution, I believe. But yeah, from what my jabs at the beginning, I've read, Zelda is not the best.
Yeah.
The problem is the resolution, and you're not going to get around that.
No.
But it's definitely going to help if you're not looking through a screen protector and a cardboard box and some plastic lenses.
It's got to be so hard too to take something that's already there. This game was not developed and ready for VR, and they kind of just found a way to shoehorn it in. I'm like, I wouldn't expect it to be super great. Like,
yeah. Well, and the biggest no they did was making an orbital camera for your face, and I'm sure as everyone's seen or heard about, that's horrible.
Yeah.
that screws with your brain, and you're just like, what is going on, in a way that you can't really even describe. But yeah, I've just thought that was really interesting because you think there would be a block. Like, this would never happen with an NES.
Yeah.
NES, they were like, block everything. You have to have a lockout chip and everything. So kind of cool that somebody was just like, I wonder if this will actually work if I just plug this together. Speaking of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, they did an update, of course, to do the VR and everything. And apparently this has caused some quicker load times, significantly faster. Now, up to 5 seconds, basically, when you're coming out of a temple. And I was like, well, you hear 5 seconds and you're just like, okay, whatever, 5 seconds. But when you actually watch the video that is attached to this and you see how long 5 seconds really is as far as game time is concerned,
yeah,
and how many times you're loading in and out of shrines and everything, it's definitely going to make it feel a little bit snappier. Unfortunately, this didn't come in time for us for the revisit to Hyrule, because I'm sure a lot of people could have benefited from this. But if you haven't played it, if you're like me and came into the game much later, this will be very helpful, I think.
It's also worth noting too, it says here the load times in Super Mario Odyssey have also been sped up due to this update as well.
Interesting. I never felt like Odyssey was too slow.
I didn't either.
There are times when Zelda, you're just like, I can only watch these little icons jumping around on this black and white screen for so long. Apparently there's noticeably less overworld lag as well. So I'm wondering if they just improved, some of the architecture of the game and some load in stuff. And
I mean, the biggest test is the forest when you go get the Master Sword.
Oh gosh. Yes. That was horrible. Horrible. I mean, great game. Love it.
Game of the year.
Game of the year. 990 Korok seats. Yeah. So that's your Nintendo news.
All right. So I think that wraps it up for news for this week. So we have one last thing to do before we head off here, yes, Lucas. And that's give away that so sexy polo shirt.
Yes. And if you sport it like I do, you're guaranteed.
Duck face. You gotta do the duck lips.
Got to do duck lips. You got to pull on the badge. You got to show. You don't want any crinkles. You don't want people thinking it's DSVG. That would be embarrassing. You got to show them the whole goods.
Yeah.
PSVG.
Fully endorses showing off all your goods.
Exactly.
So I have the list of all of our awesome Patreon supporters loaded up in the randomizer, which I borrowed from Lucas here.
That's right.
Although it's not going to make any sound effects, so it's not really the one Lucas made. Lucas, pick a number, and that's how many times I'm going to click this bad boy.
I choose 4.
Okay, here we go. So 1. Oh, he'd really like it, but I got to hit it again. 2. Nah, we don't want to give it to him anyway. So 3 and 4. Oh, This is interesting.
Any repeats?
There was.
Okay.
But this winner was not a repeat. He just pulled up this last time. This is intriguing.
Ooh.
And this is going to make Donnie have to do some shipping out of the country. Because the PSVG shirt is heading to the Great White North to Mr. Sean Capre.
So thank you for the shirt.
Congratulations, Sean.
Wow.
And we'll get Donnie to ship that up there to you.
Now, Will the Canadians only wear a shirt if it's dipped in maple syrup first, or maybe throw some Labatt's in there?
Probably. We should add a Z.
I think,
call it Zed. PSV's dead.
There's probably some cultural thing you have to do before you ship that out, Donnie. So you better check into that.
It's when he gets the package, he'll be like, "What's all this about?" And then he opens it up. Like, oh, it's a shirt.
Oh boy!
He'll somebody's going to try and pull it over his head and then hockey punch him.
I like it.
I don't know.
We love making fun of Canadians because it's okay.
We do.
For some reason, it's okay.
So please don't cancel your Patreon support, Sean. We appreciate you. But enjoy the shirt.
Don't build a wall like you said you were going to.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So let's wrap this show up now. We've got all the housekeeping done. Next week, as we said, David Fox is going to be on the show. Please send in any questions you might have. Guy's got a lengthy resume, being basically involved in game design from the 70s to right now, is currently still working in the industry, which is pretty darn amazing when you hear about all these people who, their studios get shut down, this and that, or they stop working, or they're doing the thousands of hours a week crunch. This man's still doing it all this time. So we'll be excited to talk to him. So send those questions you can either send them directly to me at PSVG Kevin or the at PSVG Twitter, or join us in Discord and you can DM me there and let me know, or hit up Lucas as well and let us know your questions and what you want us to address with Mr. Fox, and we'll get them covered on the show for next week. But Lucas, where can people find you and your other shenanigans you're up to?
I get up to a lot of shenanigans on the PSVG and Flux to Pose Discords, and you can also find me on Twitter at heavymetal_riff. That's riff, not rift.
Not like Oculus Rift.
No. See, now I have to, before the Rift was around and then I bought one, it wasn't confusing at all. Now it just, got to be clear, specify, and direct.
Yes. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for telling a friend. Head over to the website, psvg.blog, to keep up with all of the stuff we do at any given point. So thank you for everything, tuning in, telling a friend. We appreciate you. But most importantly, as always, we ask that you never stop gaming.
This has been a PSVG production. Any music, sound effects, or the like is owned by their respective copyright holders. No infringement is intended. The views expressed in this production are those of the individual contributor and may not necessarily reflect PSVG. This production may not be repurposed, reused, or redistributed without the express written consent of PSVG. PSVG is powered by patrons at patreon.com/PSVG. Become a patron to get special perks, including access to exclusive content.